Good day, students. How are you? Today we are looking at reproduction. I believe we are ready with our writing materials, pencil, biro, and books. We'll be looking at reproduction, sexual reproduction in unicellular organisms. The last time we defined reproduction as the process by which organisms produce new individuals. Before we look at sexual reproduction in unicellular organisms today, by the end of the class, you should be able to define sexual reproduction. You should be able to list the forms of sexual reproduction in unicellular organisms, describe the forms of sexual reproduction. You should be able to distinguish between asexual reproduction and sexual reproduction. And finally, you should be able to state the advantages and disadvantages of asexual reproduction. Definition. Sexual reproduction is the production of new individual of same species, that is the key word, of same species, by fusion, that is coming together, of different sex cells. The production of new individual of the same species by fusion of sex cell or gametes from different parents is called sexual reproduction. The fusion of the male gametes and the female gametes result in fertilization and formation of zygote. That means when the male and female gamete fuse together, come together, we have the zygote form, that is the product. Sexual reproduction can be found in multicellular organisms, such as flowering plants and higher animals. Sexual reproduction exists in two forms in these organisms. The forms are conjugation and fusion of gametes. Conjugation and fusion of gametes. During conjugation, the fusion of similar gametes occur, that is, coming together of similar gametes occur, and it is a primitive type of reproduction. Conjugation will occur in Spirogyra, that is green filamentous algae, that's another name for Spirogyra, green filamentous algae, rhizoids, and bacteria. From fusion of gametes. Fusion of gametes occur in plants and higher animals. It also involves the fusion of male and female gametes, coming together of the male gamete and the female gamete. It is an advanced type of reproduction. Conjugation will occur in Spirogyra, Paramecium, and other organisms. And let us look at the stages of conjugation in Paramecium. The two conjugates, that is, the two small organisms, would lie side by side. The two conjugates lie side by side, that is the first stage. The two conjugates will now unite by their oral groove. Oral groove is a part of the structure of Paramecium. This is where the two conjugates unite, come together. The two nuclei divide. Paramecium is said to have two nucleus. One called the micro, that is the small one, and the other one mega, the bigger one. They divide into two equal parts, and this is to ensure that each cell consists of the nuclear membrane from both animals. The conjugate will now separate, and each cell divides into two by binary fission. The conjugates produced produce 4 individuals from 2 original ones. That's after the division of these 2 organisms that comes together, at the end, 4 is produced. This is the diagram illustrating conjugation in paramecium. As we can see, this is the first stage where the 2 conjugates lie side by side. This is the second stage, the third, the fourth, fifth, sixth, and seventh that divides to 4 different organisms. And these 4 organisms will grow into adults. Now, aside from paramecium, where conjugation occurs, conjugation also occurs in mucor. What do we call mucor? Mucor is a non-green plant. It's a saprophyte that grow on decaying material. Conjugation is a form of sexual reproduction in mucor too. When the positive and negative strand of the micella is a part of the mucor. It's a part of mucor. And the process of conjugation in mucor is as follows. The hyphae, what we call first root of different micella, lie side by side, just like we have in the paramecium where the 2 conjugates lie by side. They form short side branches called progametaria, which develop forward until they meet. That is, the structure formed develop until it meets the other one. Each of these structures will now develop a septum to form a cell with many nuclei called gametagium. Each of that structure form will develop to form a septum. That septum will now form a cell with many nuclei called what? Gametagium. After that, the cross wall will now divide the 2 gametes, stadium, dissolve, and the nuclei of the 2 mixes up to form multinucleated cell called zygote. That means after this cell wall divides into 2 gametagium, which dissolves, and the nuclei of the 2 mixed up, that is the 2 organisms that comes together, mixes up to form multinucleated cell called zygote. After this, the zygote will now develop a thick brown spore, a thick brown structure called zygospore. The zygospore will later germinate into hyphae with sporangium at the tip. The zygospore will germinate into a hyphae with sporangium at the tip. The right sporangium liberates new vegetative mycelium. That is, it bursts to liberate new organism. Conjugation diagram is shown there in mucor. So you are expected to study this diagram, be able to draw it and label it, be able to explain the diagram, not just only draw. You explain the diagram, stage 1, coming together of the 2, stage 2, forming the cell, stage 3, the 2 organisms comes together to form progametaria, that is it there, forming the progametaria. The progametaria also extend to form another structure. Now after that, this is the zygote formed. After the zygote, we have the diagram of this showing the spores in the circle. So these structures there are the spores. So when it is fully grown inside that structure, inside the sporangiosome, it bursts to form young zygospore. And the zygospore develop into a new organism. So you are expected to study the stages of the diagram. Conjugation also occurs in Spirogyra. Spirogyra is otherwise called green filamentous algae. It has a filament all over. Process. The cell of the filament will lie side by side like the part of the paramecium. It develops an outgrowth on the cell wall of the two filaments. The zygote meets, like we have in the other one, to form a conjugation tube. The gamete of the first filament fuses with the gamete of the other filament, the second filament, to form a zygote. That is what we call fusion. Not fission, fusion, coming together. The zygote develops a thick brown wall cell structure called zygospore. Those are the process. The cell filament lies side by side. It develops an outgrowth on the cell wall of the two filaments. The outgrowth meets to form a what? A conjugating tube. That's where they meet. That's where the two gametes meet. The gamete of the first filament fuses with the gamete of the other filament to form a zygote. The zygote develops a thick brown wall called zygospore. Then under suitable condition, the zygospore will burst and germinate into a new individual. Conjugation image in Spirogyra. We can see it. This is the first stage. That is where the two filaments meet. You can see the conjugation tube fuses together. The zygospore formed here. This empty cell, after the thing has been transferred, it forms a male filament here. The male filament fuses with that of the female there, and the new structure zygospore is formed. Now, having discussed the processes of sexual reproduction in those organisms, there is need for us to know the advantages and disadvantages of this reproduction. So we are looking at the advantages of sexual reproduction first. Asexual reproduction first. Asexual reproduction produces new plants with the same genetic property. The genetic property does not change in asexual reproduction. It is a faster process of reproduction, unlike that of the sexual reproduction. It does not require an agent of pollination. The disadvantages are this. Asexual reproduction leads to overcrowding and competition. It leads to overcrowding and competition. New varieties are not produced. New varieties are not produced during asexual reproduction. Because it leads to overcrowding, there is every possibility that diseases will occur when sexual reproduction takes place. It may lead to transfer of diseases as a result of overcrowding. Asexual reproduction does not encourage evolutionary advancement. Evolutionary advancement is not encouraged during asexual reproduction. Then the offspring are very, very identical. Offspring produced during asexual reproduction are identical. You cannot differentiate between them, even if they are from different parents. Now, before we discuss the differences between the two, do we have questions so far? Any question? No questions now. Now, let's look at the differences between sexual reproduction and asexual reproduction. 1. During asexual reproduction, one parent is involved, and sexual reproduction will have two different organisms, male and female, coming together. Gametes are not produced during asexual, while gametes are produced in asexual. Zygotes are not formed during asexual. During sexual, we have formation of zygotes. New variety not formed, variety formed. Does not involve fusion of gametes, that is asexual. Sexual will have gametes coming together. Another type of reproduction that we didn't discuss earlier is the vegetative propagation. Vegetative propagation is a form of asexual reproduction, and it is of two types. We have the natural vegetative propagation, and we have the artificial vegetative propagation. I'll take it again. Natural vegetative propagation, and we have artificial vegetative propagation. What does natural vegetative propagation entails? Now, what type of plants undergo natural vegetative propagation? Now, any plant that has underground stem will undergo natural vegetative propagation. That's a method of reproduction. Among these underground stems, we have the rhizome, such as canna lily, chrome, cocoyam, stem tuber, and creeping stem. I will take it again. We'll have the rhizome, which includes canna lilies, chrome, cocoyam, stem tubers, creeping stem tubers. Creeping stem tubers will include runners such as sweet potato, stolons, and elephant grass. Creeping stem will include runners such as sweet potato, stolon, and elephant grass. Underground shoots will also undergo vegetative propagation. Underground shoots, that include our bulb, which we have onion. Onion is a very good example of bulb. The leaves of some plants, such as bryophyllum leaf, will also undergo vegetative propagation. The roots of some plants, such as the cassava, will also undergo vegetative propagation. Now, having said all those, we need to read further on this. So you are referred to Senior Secondary School Biology by Isaac Ogunbumi in College Biology. The assignment we have for this topic is as follows. Number 1, you have to give 5 differences between asexual reproduction and sexual reproduction. I repeat, 5 differences between sexual and asexual reproduction. Mind you, differences are better done in a tabular form. Differences are better done in a tabular form. Number 2, with the aid of diagram, describe conjugation process in paramecium. With the aid of diagram, describe conjugation process in paramecium. Now, that means you have to study that diagram very well, stage by stage, and be able to describe it perfectly. Your diagram must be perfectly drawn. Is that clear? Do we have questions on this before we go? No. Now, the second stage of this topic will be done in our next class. The second stage, that is reproduction 2, will be done in our next class. That is asexual reproduction. We are going to treat asexual reproduction in our next class. Thank you very much.